Welcome back. So now we will be seeing the last lecture of this current module. So which is the where we will discuss the NMR spectroscopy specifically to the factors affecting the chemical shift and the two dimensional NMR. So what are the factors? Actually we discussed all this in detail, that is the which is affects the chemical shift. Now we have seen that different nuclei lies in different areas of the NMR spectra, but what do they mean? What do you mean by those factors? Some of the factors are electronegativity effects, the hybridization effect, the hydrogen bonding effect and the solvent effect. All these factors do actually decide the chemical shift. So, in this lecture we will be studying the primarily contents are the different factors which actually gives the different chemical shifts, and at the end we will also study the spin-spin coupling. So, this is very important concept, the spin-spin coupling. We will see what do mean by that and how it helps us to elucidate the structure. First, let us see the electronegativity effect. So, what is electronegativity effect? The chemical shift here increases in direct proportion to the electronegativity of the element linked to the hydrogen. So, higher the electronegativity of the element, higher will be the chemical shift. This is true as we know that if it is electronegative, so it will try to distort the electron cloud to a higher extent as compared to the one which has lower electronegativity. So, electronegativity have a great influence than a single substituents. It will reduce the valence electron density around the protons linked to that carbon due to the electron withdrawing properties. Let us see. So, it will alter the proton from the magnetic field that is applied. So, this we have been saying that it is nothing but it will try to alter means what? It will try to to deshield the nuclei which is attached to it. That is why it says it alters the magnetic field. So, it decreases the local diamagnetic shielding in the area of the connected protons by lowering the electron density in that region. Okay. The higher the substituent electronegativity, the more it diverts or deshield the protons, and therefore, the larger the chemical shift. Okay. So, it is means higher and higher electronegative atom will give us a higher and higher chemical shift, because it will try to distort the electron cloud to a higher extent. So, now if you see the various, suppose we see the compound which is comprising of different electronegative atom, this is fluorine, this is oxygen, chlorine, bromine, iodine, hydrogen, selene. So, in the electronegativity region, these are assigned as 4, 3.5 like that. The electronegativity reduces and it goes to around close to 1.8 in case of silicon. So, what are the chemical shift? For example, if you are noticing the chemical shift of this hydrogen, methyl hydrogen which are connected to fluorine, it is close to 4.26. If it is with oxygen, it is 3.4. So, if it is with chlorine, 3.05 like that, it keep on decreases. You see in the case of this methane carbon, it is the least. So, towards this side you have higher shielding. And towards this side you have deshielding. Okay. So, that is why it is important to know these particular atoms. Now, if I have 3 electronegative atom, what happens? So, this actually increases to 4.26, and if we have 2 electronegative atoms, so it is CH2 Cl2, it is 3.40, and if you have a single chlorine atom, it is 3.05. So, as the number of electronegative atom on the hydrogen increases, you will have higher and higher chemical shifts. Now, let us see the second factor, which is the hybridization effects. Hybridization, what does that mean? If a hydrogen is attached to a purely sp3 carbon, then it will have a chemical shift between 0 to 2 ppm. So, it means the chemical shift of 0 to 2 ppm indicates that it is highly shielded. I have shown here the different, that is sp3, like that. So, as you see the attachment of carbon increases here. So, you have carbon atoms in place of hydrogen, you are replacing one hydrogen with one carbon, the shift will increase because you see this carbon is having an electronegativity. So, because of that the more the substituents of the carbon around this particular nuclei, higher will be the shift. So, now you increase it further, you replace this also. So, you have 3 carbon atoms then connected to hydrogen, thus so this hydrogen will show the highest chemical shift. So, this is what called the hybridization effects. So, hydrogens on an sp3 carbon linked to a heteroatom or an unsaturated carbon have larger chemical shift. So, if a hydrogen on a sp3 carbon atom, if it is linked to a heteroatom or an unsaturated carbon, will have larger chemical shift. Now, for example, let us see this case using pentane. So, pentane we can see there are we can have 3 compounds: normal pentane, isopentane, neopentane. So, in normal pentane the hydrogen atoms are actually showing up. We do not consider the 2 different peaks, we consider the overall peaks. Let us see what are the overall peaks here. So, it somehow lies in a close range of 1.5. So, the one which is away, that is the terminal hydrogen atoms, terminal methyl groups are shielded to a larger extent as compared to the carbon atoms which are present in the carbon chain. So, these are due to the terminal hydrogen atoms and these are due to the carbon chain hydrogen atoms. Now, when you have the isopentane, okay, so it means that isopentane you have a branch structure. So, because of this branch structure, okay, you will have a effect because this terminal hydrogen atoms does not have much difference, which is similar to 0.9, it will show up here. The difference is little bit marked in the case of when you have it's close to 0. Let us say here 0.1.29 and 1.31. So, it somewhat increases to 1.62. So, hydrogen which are attached to purely sp3 carbon atom is we should be lying between 0 to 2 pm. Same thing for neopentane. So, you know what you have is here you have a carbon atom here and you have methyl groups everywhere. So, you assume if you compare with the isopentane that it has a carbon attached to one of the valency, but the remaining you know you have a hydrogen here also, while in this case you do not have any hydrogen in its neighborhood, but you have the different methyl groups which are connected to its 4 valency. So, it means all these 4 valency will behave in a similar manner as you have for the terminal group of methyl atoms which we have shown in N-pentane. So, all these 4 methyl group of N-pentane are equivalent in nature. If because of this equivalence in nature they are shielded heavily, this is the reason it is showing less than 1. In the case of butane, if you see the butane also, these 2 are equivalent protons and these 2 are again equivalent protons. When you have isobutane, see this particular hydrogen atom linked to this carbon atom has a higher shift, implies it is deshielded to a certain extent because the hydrogen atom is connected to carbon atom directly and it is connected to carbon atoms in its neighborhood. So, it is somewhat showing in this area. Now, in the case of butene, well, you have the unsaturation case happening, we have the ring and this double bond. Because of the double bond effect, it will be highly deshielded. The carbon atoms at this range, this is the 5.82 and 5.07, this will be deshielded. Because of the deshielding, it appears in the higher end of the spectra or the with the higher chemical shifts. Okay. Same thing for here. So, these two you can say these are almost equivalent in nature, that is why it is showing up at 5.07, while remaining this one 5.82 likewise. So, you have to apply your insights with the immunospectroscopy on unknown compounds and then you decide on which spectra to put or assign in the molecule. Let us say you have a sp2 hybridization state just now which I have discussed. Let us say we have a vinyl group as shown here Now, vinyl group, what you have is something like sp2 hydrogen atoms attached to a simple vinyl hydrogen have a resonance frequency of 4.527 ppm. It is not the resonance frequency, but if I tell about 4.527 means frequency means obviously as you go towards the left hand side from 0, you are applying higher and higher magnetic field. So, magnetic field means higher frequency, that is what I have related this frequency with the ppm. So, the carbon atom in a sp2 CH bond, if you notice it has a higher proportion of s orbitals. So, this has a higher proportion of s orbitals here. So, because of the higher proportion of s orbitals, because they are tightly held, more electronegativity, that becomes, it implies that it is more electronegative than the carbon atom in an sp3 hydrogen atom. Okay. So, it becomes, it is higher proportion of a sp2 orbital. It makes it more electronegative, double bond, and if it is more electronegative, it means it will try to align with the magnetic field or it will show resonance at a high frequency. So, carbon s orbital will confine electrons closer to the nucleus than the carbon p orbitals. So, when the sp2 carbon atom retains its electrons more firmly, the hydrogen nucleus receives less shielding than the sp3 1s bond. So, the vinyl hydrogen on sp3 carbons exhibits a higher chemical shift than the aliphatic hydrogen. Okay. So, aromatic hydrogen compounds are already, I have shown these nuclei falls at the region of 7 to 8 ppm. Now, let us see the anisotropy. So, anisotropy means where the the magnetic field is disturbed. For example, ethanol which is an aldehyde. Okay. So, the hydrogen atom which is connected to this CH shows up at a very high shift. So, it requires a higher frequency to have a resonance. So, it is called downfield. This is primarily due to the inductive action of the electronegative atom which is attached to the proton electron density. So, there is a combined inductive effect, one is due to the oxygen atom, electronegative atom, another is due to the double bond which actually does a it distorts the electron cloud further. So, it is a combination of electronegativity character of oxygen atom as well as double bond, the reason why it shows up at such a higher chemical shift. Or acetic acid, in this case acetic acid this is showing up at 11. So, the proton links to the carboxylic acids are among the least protected. So, they are highly deshielded. They will have a resonance close to 10 to 12 ppm. Higher the hydrogen bonding, more a proton becomes deshielded. The more concentrated the solution, the more molecules that can form a. So, that is what I told that if the solution is concentrated, it can form a hydrogen bond which may come in contact with one another. So, this hydrogen bonding, as I told you, is another factor, the solvent effects and hydrogen bonding. So, both the solvent effects and the hydrogen bonding actually works here. In the case of acetic acid, because it is having an effect on both these parameters, so it is shifted further downfield. So, it will have higher and higher deshielding effect. So, concentrated solution, as I told you, this is one of the factor. The hydroxide protons absorb around 0.5 to 1 ppm in dilute solution, when so it means that there is no hydrogen bonding. In a concentrated solution, their absorption is close to 4 to 5 ppm. So, other heteroatoms exhibit comparable characteristics. So, it means that you have a solution where it is in a dilute solution, it is not able to undergo any hydrogen bonding. So, it will show somewhere between 0.5 to 1, and if it is concentrated, it will try to do a hydrogen bonding between them and it will be closer to 4 to 5 ppm. And if it is further having heteroatom, it will go further downfield. So, it will show at a higher chemical shift. So, hydrogen that can exchange electrons from either of the solvent medium or one another also have a tendency to have a varied absorption location. Okay. So, now the curious case of magnetic anisotropy. The magnetic anisotropy is very important in case of aromatic or let us say alkenes or alkynes. For example, in the case of aromatic, what happens? So, you have a ring, here the aromatic ring is here, fine. You have the ring pi electron. So, these pi electrons, they are actually circulating, okay. These blue ones are the circulating pi electrons. Now, on the application of applied magnetic field, what happens? Some part will try to deshield because it will oppose the field, while another part it may align, that is it may try to align, it will try to shield the protons. So, it will mean that when these particular pi electrons circling in the ring, it generates a magnetic field. This magnetic field is called secondary magnetic field. This secondary magnetic field actually interacts with the applied magnetic field in the same direction. Because of this, as it is applied in the same direction, these spectra are further shifted downfield, or it will have a higher deshielding effect. So, the travelling electrons here produce a magnetic field which is similar to that produced by a loop of wire. Here the circulation of current is required as ring current, and it is created when a current is induced to flow. So, what do we have is, so if I want to summarize, a proton when it is connected to a benzene ring is affected by 3 magnetic fields. What are the 3 magnetic fields? First is the strong field which is produced by the NMR spectrophotometer electromagnetic, which is this. Okay. Then the proton's normal shielding by the valence electrons. So, now as I told you earlier, the valence electrons try to shield the proton from the external magnetic field. So, because these are valence electrons, so with the electric field they will form a magnetic field, they will try to shield the protons. And the third one is due to the anisotropy. Because of this ring pi electrons, okay, because of the blue circulating ring pi electrons, they will have a electric field which will actually induce a anisotropy. What do you mean by anisotropy? Anisotropy means that the magnetic field is not uniform. So, since it is not uniform, it makes the benzene ring, or it will try to make the proton align with the applied magnetic field. What does it mean? It means when it is aligning with the magnetic field, it means it is trying to deshield the nuclei which is present in the pi ring. That is the reason why it is located, these protons are simply happen to locate in an area of the anisotropic field. Now, this is very important concept, and you should understand what is spin-spin splitting. What it means is that, let us suppose we have these 2 scenarios. Let us suppose this is scenario 1, this one, this is first scenario, this is second scenario. You have a X type molecule. So, let us suppose you have 2 different types of proton, HA, HB. So, it means if I talk of HA and if talk of the solution which is the X type molecule, so it means spin-spin splitting means it tried to sense what is in its neighborhood, what protons are in its neighborhood. So, in this case this HA is sensing the proton HB. So, now that proton spin will be affected with the spin with HA possess. So, if HA spin is equivalent, or if it is same spin as compared to HA, HB has plus half. So, they will try to align with the magnetic field. So, it means they will be deshielded. If it is deshielded, they will be showing at a higher chemical shift. Now, consider the other type of molecule which is a Y type molecule. Here HA again senses a nuclei HB, but that nuclei will have a spin opposite to itself. It will have minus half spin. Because of a negative half spin, so it will try to deshield the magnetic field. If it is deshielding a magnetic field means this particular nuclei will show up at a higher chemical shift. Okay? So, you have a deshielding effect here, you have a shielding effect here. So, it is opposing the applied field. So, higher chemical shift, lower chemical shift. So, it means that if you draw this type of spectra, you will have 2 different peaks, and if I draw a central line dotted. So, it means if both the nuclei are equivalent, it will lie here. Since they are not equivalent, it means this will somewhat related to HA and this will somewhat relate to HB. This is what it means. So, spin-spin splitting occurs as a result of hydrogen on the neighboring carbon atoms having the ability to feel one another or sense one another. The hydrogen atom attached to carbon A is capable of sensing the spin direction of the hydrogen attached to the carbon B. The hydrogen on carbon B has a spin of plus half in certain molecules of the solution, and the other molecule solution, the hydrogen on carbon B has a spin of half, Y type molecule. So, as I told you, the direction of the spin of proton affects the chemical shift of proton A. The term here coupled refers to proton A's interaction with proton B. How does the proton A interact with the proton B within the same molecule? Okay. So, proton B spin state has an effect on the magnetic surroundings obviously. As a result, proton A absorbs a slightly chemical shift in type X molecules than it does in type B. So, proton A is de-shielded since proton B's field is aligned with the applied field and its magnetic moment contributes to the applied field, it is de-shielded. Okay. So, you must be now knowing what is the difference and how does this spin-spin splitting occurs, because it actually nothing but shows the interaction of the nuclei within the same molecule, how it actually interacts. So, now the issue of this spin-spin coupling is something like this. If we have a ethyl iodide molecule, you see you have one peak because of the CH2 methyl group and this one is the CH3. Okay. So, spin-spin coupling means what? You have here the 4 spins. I will tell you why you will get 4 here. What do you mean by this? It means that you have how many orientations of the spin. So, if you have 4 different states, so the 4 different states with respect to spin, I can representing the net spin as either plus 3 by 2, plus 1 by 2, minus 1 by 2, minus 3 by 2. So, how do you represent it? So, in convention what we do is, if it is positive, as I told you, we write in this direction, and a negative we write in this manner. Okay. So, it means that so there are 3 half here, half plus half or in upper direction. So, it is 3 by 2, while in this case it is plus half. So, what are the different ways it will be plus half? If there are 3 possible electronic states, so it can either be this region. It means that this particular peak is 3 times more possible as compared to this particular state. So, 3 times more probable means, so let us see 3 different states it must be existing. So, 3 different states, but all of these states should equal to half. So, if you see you add these two, the upward signal is equal to plus half and then minus half. So, net becomes plus half. Similarly, this is another orientation which shows one of them is minus, other 2 are plus, another one is one of them is negative, other 2 are positive. Same thing here also, it is 3 times more probable, this one. So, if it is 3 times more probable, but with a negative which is opposing the field, so it means you see it will have different way you can arrange them. This downwards, so minus half plus minus half, then addition of plus half. So, net is minus half, like that. Again this is minus half and then is plus half, like that. So, if I want to say that these peaks I can he is in the ratio of 1. This ratio means, what it means is that the molecules which are having the spins, net spin as plus half or minus half, are 3 times more probable than the particular nuclei which are having the spin state as minus or plus 3 by 2. Now, on the other hand, this particular is having a spin state equal to CH3. So, CH3, sorry, this is CH2. So, CH2 will have a spin arrangement something like this. The methyl protons they may either be downward or it may be outward. So, it can be either plus 1 or minus 1. So, it is fairly simple. So, either you can have both the plus half spin state to be upward or you can have both the spin state to be downward. So, now either of these will be making it minus 1 and plus 1. Okay. So, this is what about the spin arrangements of this particular molecule. So, in summary, we can see that the spin-spin splitting, if I want to summarize what is we are getting, that is, in the case of this ethyl iodide, we just saw that this methylene group and the methyl group are splitted. So, methylene group are splitted and it is showing up. So, the methyl group is showing up here, as I told you, methylene group is showing up here because it is closer to an electronegative atom. So, it means what? So, it means that this particular spin, it has 4 different states of spin. So, as I told you, it implies that the 4 different types of molecules are present. 4 different types of molecules are present in the spin. So, what are these actually reflecting? So, with the net spin of plus 3 by 2, plus half, minus 3 by 2, what it does is, it means there are 4 possible states, and out of these 4 possible states, these 2 plus half and minus half are the most probable. So, what are the way we can arrange? We can arrange it either with the 2 spin states up, 1 spin state down, again up and down. We can say these 3 are all degenerate, similar pattern, because it is, the proton spin are indistinguishable from each other. So, that is what we mean. So, if you see carefully, these are in the ratio of 1:3 is to 3 is to 1. So, it means that the plus half or minus half, it is 3 possible ways to split, 3 possible spin states. While it is plus 3 by 2 or minus 3 by 2 spin state, only a one possible way, because you cannot make another spin state with the combination of 3 half or 3 negative of minus half, only you can do this. Okay. So, now the issue is what is plus 3 by 2 and plus half doing? See, the plus 3 by 2 or minus half, what that it does is try to deshield the molecule. The 3 by 2 or minus 3 by 2 deshields to a lesser extent as compared to the one which is half. So, it means either it is shielding or deshielding the protons more strongly or higher strongly. So, plus 3 by 2, if it is plus, it means it will deshielding the proton, and it is minus means shielding the proton. Okay. So, likewise, there is another part possible which is due to the methyl group splitting. The splitting obviously can have a net spin of plus 1, 0 or minus 1. So, minus 1s mean both of them spin states going downwards, or one of them downwards, one of them upwards. So, the net becomes 0, or both of them upward spin states. So, all these possible states are called as spin states. So, theoretically it is possible that 3:3 is higher probable than compared to a single spin state. Okay. So, now we need to see, we need to see why there are 3 here and why there are 4 here. This is the way the splitting occurs, is how the particular proton senses the other proton within the same molecule. It is the manner which I will explain in the next slide. So, now the spin splitting, again we take the example of 1,1-trichloroethane. The spin splitting, what does that mean? So, it means that 1,1-trichloroethane, the highest resolution NMR spectrum of this contain the 5 peaks, that is, there will be total of 5 peaks, because this is, you can see it closely, there are 2 peaks here and 3 peaks here. So, a group of 3 peaks here is referred to as 5.77 ppm. The 3 peaks is correspondingly this value 5.77, and this corresponds to the particular proton which has 2 electronegative atom. Okay. The 2 electronegative atom, that is chlorine atom attached with itself. So, it will show a higher downfield. So, it will have a higher chemical shift as compared to this 3.90, because it is connected to only one single electronegative atom, this is chlorine. So, now as I told you, we will explain this in detail. So, each type of proton senses the number of equivalent protons on the carbon atoms. So, if you consider a type of proton as 3.90 or one type of proton, and 5.77 is another type of proton. So, this one senses the proton at 5.77, and in return the proton at 5.77 senses 3.90. Because of this, there is a splitting occurring, and this splitting is reflected. This we called as doublet, and this we called as triplet. So, this they split by a n plus 1 rule. So, what is this n? N means what is the nearby nuclei which is present around that referred proton. So, whatever number of protons which is present around the nearby protons, you add up 1. So, that will give the number of splitting for a particular peak. So, in this case n plus 1 is equal to 2, n plus 1 here is equal to 2, and in this case n plus 1 is equal to 3. So, it means there is a single type of proton, n is 1, and here you have two different types of proton. Now, what do you mean by single type of proton and two different types of proton? We will see in the next slide. Now, again look up this structure carefully. Okay. Now, two type of protons I was referring to. So, it means where I have made this hydrogen, these two hydrogen atoms are equivalent in nature. It means they behave equally, while the one which is here are not similar to the one which is colored in red. So, it means this particular proton, it will sense these two protons in a different manner. Conversely, the two protons H and H are singular in nature in this case, and it will sense a proton which is here. So, it means that these two protons, even though they are similar, it is the particular proton which is in the blue color, it senses these two differently. So, we call this non-equivalent protons. But in this case, when we talk about the sensing of the protons with respect to the blue proton, then this HH is referred to an equivalent proton. Okay, very important. So, that is why this sensing is appearing here, and the sensing where the equivalent proton approaches the proton which is connected to a carbon and which in turn is connected to two chlorine atoms are appearing here. So, now you see how many protons, when you talk about this, how many protons it is sensing? 2 protons. So, 2 protons it is sensing, this blue colored hydrogen atom. Please remember, all these protons are within the same molecule, that is 1,1,2 trichloroethane. It should not be confused that these two molecules are different, same molecule, but we are trying to sense different protons, how it actually interacts with the magnetic field. So, one way is this proton interacts with the two protons separately, and conversely both the protons which are equivalent in nature, it will interact only with the blue proton. So, in this case, in the case of non-equivalent protons, what we do is we say it is interacting with two nuclei, or there are two neighboring nuclei plus 1. So, it means it is n plus 1 splitting. So, it is equal to 3. So, there will be 3 peaks. Now, see there are 3 peaks, 1, 2, 3. So, there are 3 splitting of the peaks. In this case, this particular proton which are equivalent in nature sensing only one proton, that is it has only one nuclei in the neighborhood of its surrounding. So, it means here n plus 1 will take the form n equal to 1 plus 1, which is 2. Now, see use the doublet. So, this we called as a triplet, and this we called as a doublet. This is where the spin splitting lies. Now, this is what I have just now referred to, n plus 1 equal to 3 is according to the rule a triplet, and the protons of methylene are next to the carbon atom, that has just one methene hydrogen, having a single neighborhood and divided into n plus 1, which is the doublet. You should please see carefully this example, because on the basis of this example you can deduce the different peaks at different location. So, please pay carefully the attention on this particular molecule. Now, let us return back to the ethyl iodide molecule which just now saw. Now again, if we see these two molecules, I should not say molecule, well, it is a part of different groups of molecules, but in this case it is the nuclei of proton which are equivalent in nature. So now the issue is, it sees these 3 hydrogen atom a separate entity. Okay. So it is sensing one hydrogen atom here, another one here, another one here, 3 different hydrogen atoms. So that is why it takes the form n equal to 3. So how many peaks you will be having? N plus 1, which is nothing but 3 plus 1, which is a quartet, 4. So you see you have a quartet here. So it just simply implies how it senses. While on the other hand, when we take of the equivalent case, all the protons which are blue in color are equivalent protons. So we say that these are if you have a mixture, you have one particular molecule which is of 3 hydrogen atoms similar in nature, and there are 2 other different hydrogen atoms. So there are 3 possible hydrogen atom or hydrogen nuclei environment, and in this case you have 1, 2, 3, 4 possible hydrogen nuclei environment. In this case where it is equivalent, now see this entire this particular grouping which is a single nuclei environment, it is sensing 2 different nuclei, this and this. So in this case it will be n plus 1, n will become 2 because 2 comes from these 2 protons. So it will be 3, that is why you see a triplet here. Now while we do this, there is an important aspect. Okay. So that aspect is, although this is not shown here, so in this case you will see, now if you pay carefully the attention, it is multiple skewing is a term which you should understand, multiple that is if you notice the particular peak here and here, these are of different height. Okay. See, this one is of different height and this one is of different height, and if you see in this case also, the peak which is facing the other nuclei, because all these are within the same molecule, please understand all the nuclei are within the same molecule. So it is somehow related, these 2 peaks are related to each other, because this particular nuclei is splitting the neighborhood nuclei, and in return these 3 nuclei act together splitting the other 2 nuclei. So they are related to each other. Now if you notice the peak here it is higher, and the peak to the left side here it is higher, and peak to the right side is higher. So it means it shows that they are somewhat related to each other. So it means if I draw it like this, and if I draw it, they are related to this direction, and if I draw this particular peak, it is slanted to the left hand side, while this peak is slanted to the right hand side. So it means this will be slightly higher than this. It means this indicates that these 2 group of spectra are related to each other, and they are having a spin-spin coupling. Okay. So this is called as multiple skewing. It is very important, because if you have nuclei at different ranges and different environment, they should split in the manner how they are related to each other. So that is why this, you may ask why these are different, that is why it means what it does is the outermost peak, in this case the right hand most peak, and in this case the left hand most peak, they are related to each other. Okay. So this you should remember when you analyze. Now take the case of another example, 2-nitropropane, fine. Now here if you see it as a 2-nitropropane means there is a nitrogen NO2, carbon is connected to NO2, and which is again connected to a hydrogen atom. Then you have 2 methyl group CH3 and CH3. Okay. This is CH3, this is CH3, and here it is a one hydrogen is there. So this hydrogen which is here, it is now what it does is it acts as an individual molecule within that molecule. So it is sensing so many other hydrogen atoms. See 1, 1, 2, 3, then 4, then 5, 6, 6. So, it is sensing 6 different nuclei in the field. So, n here will become 6. So, n plus 1 becomes n plus 1 is equal to 6 plus 1, which is equal to 7. Now, see, we call this as splitting in 7. So, you see there are 7 peaks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, you know, this type of intensity it will try to grow up when you have a higher magnetic field. So, there is a 7, but these two CH3 peaks here, all the 6 protons behave identically. So, but it sees this hydrogen atom as a single entity. If it sees this particular hydrogen nuclei as a single entity, it means it will split in doublet, because here n is 1 or total n plus 1 is 1 plus 1. So, it is doublet. That is why it is very important. Okay. So, you should see, and now yes, again you can see the line here is higher, but here also it is higher, but it is not observed because it is a weaker intensity. So, they are again slanting towards each other. So, it means they are affected by the spin-spin splitting between the two varieties of, or the two different regions of nuclei. Okay. This you should understand. So, now we go ahead. That is why we see there is a pattern. Okay. What is the peak type? So, for example, if the peak type is single, obviously nothing is there, no atom is there. So, the intensity will be 1. Singlet, we call it singlet. So, it should be singlet. Doublet means what? The peaks will be split into equal portion, 1:1. So, the singlet is 1, doublet is 1:1. Now, what you have is, if you do this correctly, what you do in the case of triplet, what you add up these two, you put 1 and in the extreme end, implies you are making a triangle, right? You are making a triangle. This triangle is called Pascal triangle. So, triangle means all the values in the sides are equal. So, if you make here 1, here also 1, here also 1, and if I make here 1, here also 1. Now, Pascal triangle, how does it work? It will just make it 1 plus 1, you add these two up right here. So, 1:2:1. So, if it is a triplet, you will have something like this, where the peak ratio will be 1:2:1. Now, what you do is, here you add these two, you add these two, you get 3, and you again add these two, again you get 3. So, it means in a quartet you will have a peak splitting in this manner. This you must recollect, it is the same as we saw for ethyl iodide. So, you have a quartet where the peaks are in the ratio of 1:3:3:1. Again you add these two up. So, if you add these two up, it becomes 4, you add these two up, it becomes 6, you add these two up, it again becomes 4. So, it is called a quintet. Okay. Well, doublet is, I just now told that it will be equal peaks, because it is just simply the area, the intensity of the two peaks will be equal. So, we have seen the quartet. Now, quintet also same manner. So, it means you will have 5 peaks. So, they are arranged in this manner. Okay. So, there will be in the proportion 1:4:6, 4:1. In the sextet, what you will have is, you again add these two, you again, if you add these two, you will get 5 here, you add these two, you get 10 here, you add these two, again you get 10 here, you add these two, you get 5 here. Okay. So, in a sextet, you will have the peaks, if I want to draw correctly. So, you will have 6 peaks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, they will be ordered in the ratio 1:5:10:10:5:10. So, this is very important, and the way you go ahead, you go for 6 heptet, like that octet. So, you keep on adding this. So, that is why you see this particular inventor Pascal is the way you develop the peak intensity, this is called as Pascal triangle. So, how the peaks are splitting due to the spin states. Okay. Now, this is very important, the coupling constant. Now, we have seen that in the non-equivalent protons or in the equivalent protons, the protons are slightly, because they are bonded with each other, it is bonded to carbon atom. Suppose there are 3 hydrogen atoms which are bonded together. Now, are there any factor or are there any, can we quantitatively couple them? There, yes, there is a way to couple them, that is called coupling constant. So, what is coupling constant? The coupling constant quantifies the extent to which a nucleus is influenced by the neighboring spin states. The spacing between multiple peaks is always given in Hertz, that is as the same as chemical shift. Now, see this is a non-equivalent protons. Again, if you see the case of trichloroethane, so we take the case of non-equivalent protons. So, now this is sensed by 2 nuclei, so it is splitting in 3. Now, if you just magnify this area, okay, so you will see that the value, that is, if you calculate this particular area, not area, values of this, it will be like, you can easily measure this, it is 6.1 Hertz. So, if you measure this particular division, let us say you have them 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, these are all equally spaced, okay, because it starts from 0, okay, it starts from 0, and let us say in the field of 110 you are applying, let us say 100 or 60 megahertz, okay. So, whether it is 100 megahertz or 60 megahertz, these positions of this particular coupling constants will be the same. So, that is the difference between these two values will always be the same. So, if you see here, the difference in these two values of the two peaks is 6.1 megahertz. So, the spacing between the multiple peaks is always given in hertz. So, whether you conduct the experiment in a 60 megahertz field or you conduct it in a 100 megahertz field, you will always get this unique value of 6.1 hertz, because the 6.1 hertz, then it represents how the particular 3 protons, these 2 protons are connected with each other, how the coupling is with each other. Same way in this case also, the coupling constant, one which is the equivalent proton, how they are coupled together, that is given by a coupling constant. So, it means that if both the values are same, is also 6.1, is also 6.1, it indicates that the type of nuclei Hi influences the another type of nuclei Hb to the same extent that Hb influences Ha. The way you influence the one nuclei with the other nuclei is same as compared to the other nuclei with itself. Okay, now we see some more examples in the forthcoming slides. So, now issue is this was all about proton nuclei. Okay. Now, in contrast to proton NMR, the C13 NMR spectroscopy does not include integration or signal splitting. Examining this amount of signals produced by each non-equivalent carbon atom in the form of a single peak. So, carbon 12, the most common isotope of carbon, has a spin of 0 and therefore is not NMR active. I told you carbon 12 is not available. So, we do with the isotope of carbon, that is carbon 13. It has an unusual mass and a nuclear spin of half. So, its concentration is relatively very less, only 1.08% of the particular nuclei is having carbon 13. Okay. So, now it is more difficult to detect the resonance of 13C nuclei than with its proton. I will tell you why. This is the reason is because see, there are about 6000 times, these C13 NMR are 6000 times less powerful than the proton resonance by the two primary reasons. What are these? The carbon 13 is very rare in nature, accounting for just 1.08% of all the carbon atoms. So, in a C13 spectrum, we are looking at a spectrum that has been constructed from a group of molecules, each of which contribute just one 13C resonance. So, it means that one carbon atom will actually contribute to a single peak. They are weakly absorbed. Why it is so? Because see this C13 NMR, it is very less in amount, nuclei. So, if it is less in nuclei amount, so it means there are fewer nuclei in the I mean not fewer, I should say, there are fewer excess nuclei. Just recollect, in the hydrogen cases we saw there are 9 nuclei. When we draw up or drew up that Boltzmann diagram, there are 9 nuclei which is actually going from a ground state to a higher spin state. But in this case these numbers falls drastically because the nuclei itself is very less. So, it means it will absorb very low frequency. So, because as it absorbs to a low frequency, so the NMR spectrophotometer is actually arranged in similar manner so as to adjust the frequencies of absorption. So, you can say that the frequency of absorption is pretty low in the case of carbon 13 when is compared to proton nuclei. So, this was an important meaning, that is the magnetohydric ratio is less than that of hydrogen. As with proton NMR, the reference point again is TMS, which is adjusted at 0 ppm. We disregard this peak when evaluating a carbon NMR spectrum. Majority of organic functional groups have a signal between 0 to 220. So, as before with proton, carbon linked to electronegative elements resonate downfield in this case, which is higher energy, and the carbonyl molecules are responsible for the highest chemical phase. Now, the issue is, you see most of these chemical shift are occurring between 0 to 220 ppm. These are pretty high as compared to 0 to 10 ppm. Now, please pay attention what it is. When I talk about 0 to 220 ppm, it means I am talking about a field which is much lower. I am talking about a field which is much lower as compared to proton, because these frequencies are very difficult to detect by a NMR spectrophotometer, because it needs a very sensitive detector, because they are weakly absorbed because of the presence of lower amount of nuclei. So, even that is so, we arrange this entire range from 0 to 200. While in the case of proton, we have seen that it goes from 0 to 10. Why is this discrepancy? The discrepancy is due to the fact that you recollect the proton. In the case of proton, suppose it is in the presence of electronegative atom, whether it is directly connected or indirectly connected, it always happen to a 3 bond, or that is 3 atom manner. So, it is not directly connected with the carbon. Okay. So, as I told you, the carbon actually provides the, it will provide or it will deshield or shield based on what electronegative or substituent atoms it has in its vicinity. But in this case of proton, it is obviously indirectly doing it, because this electronegative atom is indirectly connected with the proton. But in the case of C13 NMR, 13C NMR, this is directly connected. It is directly connected. So, it means if this is directly connected, the effect will be also direct. If the effect is direct, it means you will have a larger and higher chemical shifts. That is why exactly you see a range pretty high, 0 to 200 as compared to 0 to 10 in case of. So, it is directly, you please assume that these are directly connected. It is a 2 bond phenomena or 2 atom phenomena, but in this case it is 3 atom phenomena. That is why these shifts are higher. So, based on this shift, we can actually divide it into various parts. Now, those which are saturated in nature, saturated which has highest field, so 80 to 60 ppm, okay, in case of C13. All these are constituting 13C. Saturated means what? It is shielded to a higher extent. Okay. Then comes those which are electronegative atoms, where the carbon atom is connected to a electronegative atom. This will show up in the range of 40 to 80 ppm. Okay. And then you have those which are having alkane or aromatics, or aromatics if I write here. This will be further downfield, it will be around 100 to 175 ppm. Then finally, you have the carbonyl. This is similar, all these trends are similar as compared to the one which we have seen for proton nuclei, 125 to 220 ppm. So, carbonyl is, as you know, it is a combination of both sp2 bonding as well as electronegative atom. Okay. So, carbonyl is something like this. So, it is electronegative atom as well as the sp2 type of bond. Because of this, it goes the highest downfield. This is where all the spectra like. So, I have compiled them here. So, see, these are the carbonyl groups I told you, these are the alkene groups, aromatics. So, these are two different things, these are only pure alkene and these are alkenes with a organic acid. These are, sorry, not alkenes, these are organic acids COOH, and these are alkenes. Then you have the electronegative atoms lying between, as I told you, these are between 40 to 80 or 10 to 90 they sometimes they call. Then you have the different sp, sp3, sp2 lined up here as before, what, proton nuclei. Okay. So, you should know all this. So, on this all the spectra, that will be a single prominent peak. Why this is single prominent peak? I will tell you. This is due to the fact, now the issue is, we call a nuclear, this, when you send a particular, there is an option which is called, here we are coming to the conclusion of this module, that is the 2D NMR. So, 2D NMR means there are two ways you can conduct this 2D NMR. Okay. So, this 2D NMR is called as nuclear Overheser spectroscopy, nuclear Overheser effect spectroscopy. What it does is, this particular spectrum, there is actually within the carbon and hydrogen, carbon and let us say hydrogen. See, one is in hydrogen you have 99% of the available nuclei. So, even if there is any carbon atom, more or less it is masked. But in the case of when we are seeing this carbon 13 NMR, when you are passing on the magnetic field, the protons may also overlap. So, if they overlap, it means they will show some spin states, and if they show the spin states, that spin states will again couple with the spin states of carbon atom, even though it is a lower amount, but it will couple. So, it becomes very difficult to see those. So, what they do is that they send a signal which is called a decoupler signal. And one is the main signal. Our aim is to only get the C13 peak, but the issue is this proton nuclei will have so many spin states. So, the decoupler signal is different from the main signal. The decoupler signal, what it will do, it will try to produce a signal which will primarily affect all the proton nuclei. So, it will have number of spin states. Because of the number of spin state, it will try to do us in such a manner that it will have only a single spin state, or it will try to dilute the spin states. Because of this, this particular intensity of the carbon gets magnified. How was this magnifications see? Because now the carbon will see only one average spin of nuclei, only one average spin state of the nuclei. Okay, one average spin state. Because of this one average spin state, so we call that how far it is magnified, which is given as by this formula NOE max is nothing but equal to half of by so it means what is this? It is the observed frequencies, that is nucleus being irradiated to the nucleus being observed. Now, if you put these values in the case of carbon 13, so it is having a value of 267.5 to the observed value is 67.28. So, you will get approximately 2. So, the spectra of the carbon atom, the C13 atom is magnified in twice. So, that is what we want to say with noisy. So, this noisy spectra is very important. It is used to identify whether signals originate from protons that are spatially near to one another, but are not bound. So, kindly remember, this noisy spectra is only for heteronuclear connected heteronuclear atoms. So, it is produced by the spatial correlation in the form of spin lattice vibration. So, let us see some examples. Now, in this case, let us suppose we have two components. This is a component which has an aromatic ring, and we call this as an acidic hydrogen atom. This is very powerful because these are deshielded to a very large extent as compared to an organic acid. It shows up here. Okay. And we have another compound which is ethylene glycol, and you must be aware that we do not take the oxygen atom because the oxygen atom are labile in nature. So, 3.67 and 3.73, these are all similar protons. These appear here. Okay, these two are very important. If I mix them together, what happens? You will see we will have all the peaks. So, from this experiment you have seen they are not reacting with each other because you do not have any additional peak. If there is any additional peak, so can we tell that this particular how they are interacting with each other, that is which active sites are likely to interact with which active sites. When I talk about active site, it may be either carbon and hydrogen, or it may be either hydrogen and hydrogen. Either way this can be operated, the noisy signal. Now, this is what if you do a noisy signal. Now, in this case I am looking up the proton-proton. So, see F1 means this is the component 1 chemical shift, and here F2 means is the component 2. So, component 2 is ethylene glycol, component 1 is this particular compound. So, now it shows this particular, you see this spot shows that the shifts at 3.62 and 9.07 interact with each other. Now, where do we get this 3.62? 3.62 as I told you is here. It may be here or here also because both are equivalent. Okay. And where do we see 9.07? As I told you, this one is 9.07. So, here you find the 9.07 peak, and here you point the 3.67. So, they are interacting with each other. All other peaks, if I compare, if I couple them together, lie on this diagonal. Okay. So, it means they are not interacting with each other. So, it means this part of the hydrogen atom is a likely probable candidate for having a hydrogen bonding with the part which is here. So, it means the noisy analysis reveals hydrogen-hydrogen interaction between component 1 and component 2 indicated by the contours above and below the diagonal, which are also termed as crossing peaks. The diagonal here represents the interaction between the same molecules. Okay. So, but here we are only showing one interaction, okay, with component 2. So, this is how you can relate where the protons or where the active sites do actually interact. Now, another example, this is for component here. Again it has this particular very high this 9, this is around acidic hydrogen atom, and this is acetamide, okay, acetamide, N-methyl acetamide. So, this is a spectra, and let us see what is this A and B, what are these? These are the first the noisy spectra, and these are the HH interaction, how they are found to be interacting. Now, again you see this particular spectra which is in the diagonal part. Now, here you see 3 of them which are pulling out from the diagonal. So, these 3 are the ones which are very important. Now, you see these are given in terms of numbers 3.96, 2.65. So, 3.96 means the first one related to 3.96 and 2.65. So, F1 2.65 and here you have 3.96. Okay. Likewise, the cross peaks are given here. Now, these are the different spectra located for component 1 and component 2. What do we see from this? If you try to connect with these dots, so it means this is interacting with this particular group, and the one which is here is interacting with this particular group. Okay. So, it means that it reveals the HH interaction between component 1 and component 2 integrated by the contours above and below the diagonal. These are called crossing peaks. So, 3 interactions are possible with component 2. Now, let us see if we are now able to see how these carbon 13 and proton NMR do actually interact. Now, in this case I will again take the liberty of showing an example of methyl triphenyl phosphonium bromide and ethylene glycol. So, ethylene glycol, as I told you, again it shows up a peak here, and this particular 15 hydrogen atoms 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5 each, they show up here. Okay. And this is for the CdCl3, as I told you earlier. This is a proton NMR, right? And this 4.26 and 3.18, 3.18 is somewhere here. So, it is somewhere here 3.8, but we are not interested in that. So, now let us see what is carbon 13 NMR. For the same, see the carbon 13 NMR, now you see this 63 and 63 is actually, it is getting deshielded, but to a lower extent, it is lying here. Now, in the case of aromatic rings, as I told you, these lie between 120 onwards. See, all those somehow are shifted in this manner. So, they are located somewhere here, all the 15 somewhere here, okay. While some are lesser shielded, some are more shielded, these are higher shielded, these are lesser shielded. So, all of them are somewhat in the range of 110 to 150. Okay. So, this is very important. So, now we go ahead and see if we can find a certain pattern how this proton and carbon 13 of the same molecule do interact. So, what we do is here we have plotted the F1 chemical shift, C13 chemical shift, okay, C13 chemical shift of this compound with the H1 NMR with the proton NMR of F2. Okay. So, spectrum is a C13 correlation with the C13 spectrum and HNMR plotted on the 2 axis. So, these are plotted on the 2 axis. So, if you see this particular axis here, we are showing these are all the carbon. When you see a subscript here carbon carbon, it is the carbon spectra. Okay. So, it means this particular benzene, the carbon NMR C13 NMR of benzene molecule, and this is the likely location of C13 NMR of the phenyl rings, while this is the likely location of the C13 NMR of the ethylene glycol molecule. See, these are lying around 66, while the aromatic ones are lying between 120 or 130. Okay. And this one is the chemical shift of different compounds. Now, please pay attention, what is it? We are actually plotting all the peaks in a single graph. In the case of C13, all the peaks are plotted here, and in the case of this, all the peaks of the proton NMR are plotted in the x axis. Now, in this case, if you see, this represents to the ethylene glycol CH peaks, the hydrogen atom connected to CH, which is this ethylene glycol, this is the OH one, the OH one is related to this, and then we have the benzene peaks and the protons onto the phenyl at groups, that is protons, these protons and these protons all are reflecting here. Okay. So, how do they interact with each other? See, again it has a it shows some values. So, those which are actually interacting, it will show up here, unlike the diagonal. So, see, it has been able to tell us there are some of the interaction, the 1, 2. So, like that these have different meaning. Okay. The 3.20, this carbon, see this hydrogen atom on the ethylene glycol group. Okay. The hydrogen atoms of the ethylene glycol group is directly interacting with the carbon atom of the benzene group. Okay. So, it means this blue one. Okay. So, this blue one is this one. Now, another one is the ethylene OH group. The OH group, the hydrogen atom of the ethylene glycol group is actually interacting with the hydrogen atom, sorry, the carbon C13 nuclei of its own group. So, it is intramolecular. So, it means I am not showing here, it is shown up in the red portion. Okay. So, this is what, if I write carefully, this one. So, if you represent A here, it means we are representing A here, this one, and this is B here, we are representing B here. Okay. Now, the third one is what it is, this one 7.75. So, the hydrogen atoms of the protons of both phenyl and the benzene are connected with the carbon atom of the phenyl ring of the methyl triphenyl bromide molecule. So, it means that same way what I have written here is a way you are respecting here, that is C part, the C, this is C here. So, all the atoms, the aromatic group atoms, that is hydrogen, are related with the proton. So, this is what you actually understand, the how they are bonded, or what is the sort of hydrogen bonding, or how they are linked to each other. So, we stop here, and this actually concludes the module 1, where we have seen the different spectroscopy, the NMR spectroscopy right now, and previously we have seen the IR spectroscopy, then the Raman spectroscopy. So, I hope that you have got an excellent overview along with the relevant concepts. So, you are now ready to interpret any unknown spectra, and most important, you should be able to distinguish like which particular spectroscopic techniques I should use in my own unknown compound based on the concepts. That is what I wanted to convey. So, thank you. We move ahead. We will start module 2, which is actually relates to physiosorption and chemisorption, which I must be knowing that many of the chemical engineers are familiar with this. Thank you again.